Good morning and welcome to What is in Your Landfill. This is really, for me, it's really energizing and electric. After what happened last week, it's really, we're just kind of like the dust is settling and all the media commentators are all trying to figure out and explain and understand and just what the hell happened. What happened last week? It just seemed to build for weeks. Oh, the hearing is coming, the hearing is coming. And then Thursday, the hearing came, and then it was all settled. And then Friday, bam, everything changed. What happened? So I woke up this morning, with some new metaphors and from new analogies of what the hell happened. My wife just peeked in and lost my train of thought. So what I'm looking at this morning is the metaphor of a flock of birds. Now, the most famous flocks of birds are the starlings. I forgot what it's called, but we've all seen YouTubes of them where the flocks of starlings just make designs in the sky. And we say, who's directing that? I mean, is there a leader there? Is the flock like an army and they all telegraph messages, turn left, turn right, go up, go down? They all just seem to move in unison. And there is no visible communication between every bird in the flock. So the flock is like an organism. And this goes against our reality map because we look at the Newtonian world we live in that was kind of like created after the Middle Ages. The scientific, rational, material world at that time looked like the world was just like billiard balls. And billiard balls knock into each other and you make them go. But if there was no one billiard ball knocking into a billiard ball, nothing would move. That's the way science, not anymore, it's been evolving, but the same principle is there. For a billiard ball to move, some external force must be exercised. There must be a cue. There's got to be a human. So then religion says, well, God's the pool player. God's got the pool cue, and he makes the billiard balls move around. And then we say, well, then the billiard balls, humans, have free will, so they can move around in opposition to where God wants it to go. But at the same time, nothing moves unless something hits it. That's kind of like been the science of, material stuff is not intelligent. So it has to have some external force to make it move. Well, a flock defies that. What's making the flock go up, down, up, and make these beautiful designs? You see. So flocks defy the billiard ball concept of the world. So I said here, we are a flock, not an army. Well, an army is like a regimented movement of billiard balls, all moving as a phalanx to assert its will. And the stronger the army, the more army soldiers you have, the more will it has to change the other billiard balls, you see. So the army is controlled in a hierarchy of general commander, down to the things, you see. And that's a paradigm that we operate under. The hierarchy, where control trickles down from the top. But the flock doesn't work that way. There's no trickle down. There's no leader. There's no president. There's no general. It just moves as one. So we're looking at a world now. Here's my little man here, looking at the flock, you see. Social media is changing everything. And I think that was evident last week. See, last week was a conflict, if you call it a conflict, between the army and the flock. Now, the army was the Republican Army, and the Democrats have a smaller army. That's the way it works. One army is in power at the same time. If you don't have that arrangement, you have a bloody civil war. So we don't have bloody civil wars since our Civil War, which was two armies struggling to be the one army. Now we have rules. So the Republican Army's in charge, and they are moving forward in lockstep with their talking points, with their goals, with their intention to maintain power and to never give in. So this is the way they play. But something happened. Something happened. What was it? Okay. Well, I'm trying to work this out as I talk to you, is that the flock, if you want to give it a gender, is feminine. The army, if you would want to give it a gender, is masculine. The masculine army is logical, rational, intentional, powerful, and operates under a command system. The flock, just, a flock of women, a flock of people is organic. It moves by some intuitive relationship. It moves by some inner guide. So they all move together at the same time. Now, athletes, men, know this, particularly in basketball. Basketball is a flock game in the sense that a team can get it's like a competition of two flocks. So when a flock gets in the zone, the whole team moves as one organism. And they throw the ball, boop, 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 boom, you see. I mean, there's no script to that. It's an intuitive flock, you see. They all move in unison. They all move in unison. And when you get into that flock zone, you feel it. So flocks move by feeling. Armies move by logic and mind. Now, we live in a world of social media now, and we really have not figured out what the hell's going on yet because it's new. Social media, as it has evolved, and it's evolving so fast, but we think it's always been here. Who remembers the print world? Well, I do. I mean, I grew up in the print world. The print world, as Marshall McLuhan defined it and analyzed it, began with the invention of the printing press, and it changed Europe because now everybody got a Bible, and you didn't have to rely on the church to tell you what the Bible meant. So now everybody's got a cell phone, and you don't need to rely on the institutions or the newspapers to tell you what's going on. Everything is interconnected now. And that's a flock. You see, the army is not interconnected. The army is controlled by chain of command. You want the army to go there, you got to send a message. Down the chain of command, down to the captain, the colonel, down the sergeants, down to the platoon. They all get their orders, you see. A flock just moves in unison. Boom, you see. England, of course, conquered the flock world. A tribe is a flock. A tribe is a flock that moves in unison. And so the England's army of redcoats defeated all the flocks because the army is more powerful than a flock. But something's changed today. The flock seems to be more powerful than the army. So when social media now means that every bird in America is now tuned into the whole, and it sees it real time, live, It's portable. You're on the bus, you're on commuting, it's on the radio. You see, media is more than just social media. It's electronic media, which means radio, news, the whole thing. It's all interconnected, it's all real time, and it's portable. It's portable. No matter where you are, you're in tune to something. You're in tune to your flock. Now now we have to look at the flocks. There's the great flock of America, or you can even keep going. It's like Russian nesting dolls. Could be the Western civilization flock of humans, and humanity is a flock, a species. So even humanity can move like a flock, suddenly change. The Western civilization can move like suddenly there's a change. America can move. And then within America, there are sub-flocks. Trump and his followers is a flock. Evangelicals is a flock, but they fly with Trump. The Democrats is a flock. You see, so you can, bikers are a flock. White nationalists are a flock. You know, there's a lot of different, Me Too is a flock. Gays are a flock. You see, all these different flocks, you see, and they're all interconnected with social media, so they can all change. Boom. Like that, you see. But flocks communicate, the birds in a flock communicate with an invisible, feeling, intuitive connection. And it just happens at once. That's why things can happen so rapidly today, because suddenly a flock can just move. And there's no visible command structure. And so it's a living thing, a flock, an organism. And when you're a bird in a flock, you can't see the flock. You know, you're a starling in a flock of starlings. You can't see the whole. You have to stand outside the flock in order to see this flock. So when you're inside a flock, and you just start moving with the flock, you don't know. You're not outside of it, looking at it, unless you are awake. But flocks are unconscious in that sense. When you buy into or invest in a flock, you're going to move as the flock moves without being an independent agent. So there's several things going on here that we're investigating. And so social media has created a field in which flocks are created. And yesterday, a flock event happened. Women flocked. Women flocked from all over onto this. And they were connected by pain. They were connected intuitively by the pain of being run over by a masculine army. They were inflicted by the pain of being dismissed by the male patriarchy or army, which was embodied by the Republicans in the Judicial Committee. So the women flocked. They tuned in. They turned on. They flocked there. And two birds from this mass flock confronted one of the soldiers in the Republican Army, cornered him in an elevator, and made him feel their pain. He couldn't escape. He connected with their pain. And so he changed the course of the Republican Army. So a flock of women changed the direction of a mighty army and made it blink, you see. So this I've been writing about this morning, so I'll continue to write about it because it has legs for me, because I keep trying to understand the reality that we're in now, which we don't really understand because it's so new. And because we're inside of it. Like a fish in a fishbowl doesn't understand the bowl. If the bowl changes its shape and becomes square, the fish doesn't know that. He just keeps bumping into things differently. Then he blames it on something inside the bowl. See? But the shape is changing that holds us. And it's really up to us we need new metaphors. We need new analogies, new metaphors in order to understand the shape that we're being shaped in and why things are so abnormal. Because the abnormal is becoming normal now. The abnormal is becoming normal. So we better stop going crazy and understand and look directly at what's happening instead of seeing it through the eyes of a billiard ball game. You can't understand a flock if your paradigm is billiard balls. You can't understand tribal thinking if you think in terms of an army. And the world is becoming tribal now because of social media. Social media creates flocks. Trump flock, evangelical flock. You see. And all these flocks are competing to be the one flock. So anyway, time's up. Let's dig into this on my status. I never know what to call it. Wall, status, page, I don't know. Thanks for dropping in.